Prologue. My name is Janet. I'm a 16-year-old high school student at Cheval Grande High School. It's a school for overly smart children. I'm not really an average person. I'm the top student at the school. I can do martial arts and taekwondo. I am an exceptional archer and swordsman. And I have nothing. I have no family, no friends, no home, no money. I am usually struggling just to get food. I am just a super unlucky person. For example, I applied for a job at the local supermarket once, and the day before my first day of work, it burned down. I really hate my life. There is no point for me to live, and yet I do. I'm just a waste of space. Until one day on my way to school I hear a scream. "Somebody help me please," I hear from a nearby voice. I walk over to where the voice came from to see a woman surrounded by 3 men, each with a knife and eyes with intent to kill. I watch as they get closer and closer to the woman. "Help someone, anyone," she screams. At that moment I can't control my body. It starts to move on its own. I end up running to the group and kick the knife out of one of their hands. The men seem surprised that someone actually came to assist the woman, as well as the fact that the knife was just kicked away by a teenage girl. "Run, lady," I yell at the woman. "I'll call the police," she says as she runs to the nearest building. The man, now without a knife, attempts to grab the knife back as the other 2 run at me with their knives. As they try to slash at me at the same time, I catch their wrists and twist. Their wrists are probably broken now, while the 2 of them are screaming on the ground in pain. I don't bother to remember the 3rd man as he comes up behind me and stabs me. He gets me in my right leg and I fall to the ground. "You shouldn't have interfered," he says as he stabs me again in the left leg. "Screw you," I say, almost crying in the pain I'm receiving. He stabs me again in the left and right arm. He then proceeds to slice me in the stomach. "Drop the knife and put your hands in the air," another woman says. The man smiles. "It's already done. She will die. You've finally been caught, you murderous bastard." As I watch this happening, I smile. I've finally done something good with my life. I slowly lose consciousness as I begin hearing people screaming about someone dying and bleeding out or something, but I am at peace. Chapter 1: Reincarnation. To my surprise, I wake up. I'm in a room that is way brighter than anything should be. It's a completely white room. I remember what happened and I check my body. To my surprise, I find no blood nor lacerations. I see that my clothes have changed from my school uniform to an all-white dress. I sit up to see a man in an all-white suit on a stool with his hands on his knees, staring at me. What a weird situation I've found myself in. "Yes, it is weird, isn't it?" the man says. I didn't say anything. I reply, "Yes, you did. You said, 'What a weird situation I've found myself in.'" I said, "No such thing. That's what you thought." "Can he read minds? Just who is this guy?" "Yes, I can. Because I'm God," he says. "Is that why everything is white and super bright?" "Well, this is heaven, so what you're saying is I died." "Yep, well, what do you want?" "I don't need anything from you then. Can I go now?" I ask, "You're a strange girl, you know that." "Why do you say so?" "Usual people would freak out that they died." "Well, it isn't like that place gave me anything to miss. You saved that woman's life down there, you know." "Great," I say sarcastically. "Hey, if you hadn't saved her, she wouldn't have found the cure for every disease." "Well, good for her." "Well, for your good deed to the entire world. I'll reincarnate you to another world. I'm just going to end up the same alone." "No, you won't trust me. Plus, I'll give you plenty of gifts." Why? "Because the one person you saved eventually saved hundreds of millions of people." He says, "Whatever. As long as it is not as bright as this room. Don't worry." "Any questions?" "Of course." "All right then. Good luck." He cut me off. A pitch black hole suddenly opened below me and sucked me in. I'm in a dark place. There is nothing here. I can't see anything and I can't feel anything. When I told God to not put me in a bright place, this is not what I meant. I hear a woman screaming. It sounds like she is in pain. There is also a man trying to get her to calm down. As suddenly as I was put in the dark place, I'm out and in a room that looks like a master bedroom. I'm in the hands of a man who looks to be in his 20s. He has white hair that looks almost clear. Since he has white hair, does that mean he's old? On the bed is the woman that was screaming, who now looks relieved. She also looks to be in her 20s, and she has slightly dark blue hair. In the hands of the woman is a baby. I guess I was just born into the world. Great. The man hands me to the woman. "What should we name them?" the man asks. "Jessica would fit her perfectly. She replies, gesturing to me. And this one shall be N. She says again, gesturing to the other baby. All right then, Jessica, and this is your mom. Carol Chinwyke, and I'm Gerald Chinwyke. Gerald says, Miss Chinwyke, you must get some rest. A woman with black hair in a maid outfit says, yes. You should, Carol, my father says. Miss Jessica and Miss N should take a nap as well. The maid says as she takes me take care of them. Hannah, my mother, says. She must be highly trusted if she is allowed to just take us without Carol or Gerald worrying. Hannah takes us out of the room where my parents are, and we enter a hall. The hall is seemingly endless, but we only enter the room across the hall. Inside is a bright pink room with nothing except for a single crib next to the opposite wall. Hannah walks up to the crib and sets us inside. Now you both need to sleep now, Hannah says as she walks out of the room. Chapter 2, First Gifts. I look over at and my twin sister. She is staring at me. God, why do I have to wait to grow up? It's part of the life cycle, of course. Oh. So you're just deciding to talk to me? Yes, well. What am I supposed to do? You could hang out with your twin. How am I supposed to do that? I'm a baby. Babies can't talk. Now. I told you I would give you plenty of gifts. Why don't you try speaking in your mind? Ugh. Throughout the entire conversation with God, Sai and I have been staring at each other. Hi. I say in my mind, hoping that I could actually use telepathy. And look surprised at that, so I'd guess that it worked. Hi, she says hesitantly. Don't worry, we're just speaking to each other. I say, trying to calm her down. Oh, okay, silence. Neither of us knows what to say, so how are you? I say, trying to break the awkward silence. I'm okay. I guess we're twins. Yeah, I guess so. More silence. Well, it's good to be your acquaintance, I say, desperately avoiding the silence. It's good to meet you too, and says as her baby face makes a smile. Would you happen to know anything about this world or this place? Nope, not a clue. Yeah, I didn't think so. I say, surrendering even more silence. Let's go on an adventure, I say to where she asks. Somewhere that's not here, at least. First we need to get over the bars of this crib. Why don't we use each other to boost each other up and over? She says, great idea, you go first. Why me? It was your idea. She mumbles something in her mind as she struggles to move to the bars. Remember, we are literally newborn babies. Nobody should expect us to move anywhere fast. Eventually she gets to the bars. All right, you climb on me. Then I'll push you while you pull yourself up, I say. All right. She climbs on top of me while I'm on my hands and knees. Once she is on top, I attempt to lift myself up while she grabs the top and tries to pull herself over. I manage to push her up so she can easily get on top of the bars. God, was this strength you too? Maybe. Ugh. Good job, Jess, and says Jess. Oh. Sorry, Jessica, seemed too long, so I shortened it a little. I hope you don't mind. It's fine, I don't care. How are you going to get up here? She says, still hanging on the bars. I'll just climb. I say as I start to climb one of the bars like a rope and easily get on top of the bars. Wow, you're so amazing, it's not that big of a deal. I say from the top of the bars. The floor is about 2 feet down, so we shouldn't get hurt on the way down. Ready to jump? I ask. What do you mean jump? We need to get down somehow. Oh, yeah. I guess you're right, you go first this time. Whatever, I say as I. Well, I wouldn't say jump, it was more like a fall and tumble. Now it's your turn, okay, but you better catch me. I might get crushed if I try. She does the same thing I did, but instead on top of me. That hurt, you know, I say, slightly in pain. Sorry, Jess, well, let's get the door next. Easier said than done. I forgot I'm special. I knew how to walk like a normal person would back before I died, but now I'm not sure these little legs could carry my weight. I remember that normal babies crawl. I try and succeed. As I do this and is having trouble grasping how to do anything other than breath. Try this, I tell her as I demonstrate crawling. Like this, she gets it immediately. Exactly. Now let's get out of this room. Chapter 3, More Gifts. How are we supposed to get past the door? And asks me, unsure of what to do. You realize we are in the same boat. I can't really solve everything well. It's just that just a second ago, you had so much strength and you somehow already knew how to crawl. So I thought you could do more, who knows? I was just born after all. Hey God. Do you need something? Yeah. I need some help getting out of this room. You can do it yourself. You have telepathy, so try out telekinesis. I hate you. My, what a feisty little baby you are. Ugh, once I finish talking to that horrid man, I try out the next gift he gave me. I attempt to turn the knob of the door with my mind. and watches the whole thing unfold in front of her, she becomes more and more enthusiastic of her new sister, and she smiles a great big smile. The door slowly opens as I keep telling the door to open. There I say when the door is wide open, yay. Great job, Jess. Shall we begin the exploring? Yes. We shall, she says excitedly. Let's go then. We start to crawl out the door and down the hall. I decide I don't want to open a door that is already closed, since if I do, it could lead to death punishment or another person, each of which would end up badly. We crawl until we find the first open door. The door leads to a library, the perfect place to obtain information. We crawl inside, and we are both in awe at how many books there are. In the room, there are shelves of books that are against the wall. There is nothing else in the room. I count the shelves, and there seem to be 10 in a row circling around the room. Each shelf has 10 rows. Each row of books is at least a foot high with close to 100 books on each row. There must be thousands of books here. I turn left and drag the first book off of the bottom row of the shelf. What does it say? And asks. That would make sense. Normal babies can't read, nor can they write. But since I already know that stuff, it comes easily to me. Luckily, this place uses English. It says, encyclopedia. What's an encyclopedia? It's just information. Oh, okay. I put the book back and go to the next shelf. I drag another book off the row. What does that one say? And asks. It says philosophy. What's that? It doesn't matter. However, I believe I know what system this library is using to order the book, the Dewey Decimal Classification System. If that is the case, then the 5th shelf should include dictionaries. I put the philosophy book back and crawl over to the 5th shelf to pull out a book. I pull out a book. What's that one? And asks again. As I suspected, it says dictionary. I still don't understand. You will one day. Don't worry, I put the book back. I then proceed to check the other shelves. They all seem to be the same as normal libraries, but with one small difference. The 9th shelf should be literature, plays, poems, essays, and foreign languages, but it's not. I pull out a book from it. Is that one special? And asks. I guess you could say that. I reply as I read the title, The Fundamentals of Magic. Chapter 4, Magic. I opened the book called The Fundamentals of Magic. The first page explained what magic was. I'm sure and would have liked to know, but who cares? The second page listed the types of magic and how rare they are. Common: fire, earth, water, air; rare, electricity, sound; dark, light; legendary, space-time, telepathy, telekinesis. As I read these, I doubt any of this is real yet. I can already use 2 of them. God, why? What's wrong, Jess? And asks. I notice I've been staring at the page the entire time without expression. Nothing. Why don't we try something? What is it? Let's try magic. I don't know what that is. Just watch, I say as I start down the list of types of magic. I try to make a ball of fire in front of me with my mind. I try not to make it too big as to not burn the place down. To my surprise, a ball of flame appears in front of and I screams. Should I say we don't want to get caught? Sorry, it's just what just happened. I made a ball of flame. You can try each magic type too if you want, okay? And says as she also tries to make fire. We move on to the next one. We both try to bring earth from the ground. I can. And is unable. We try water. Neither of us can do it, but since earth needed ground, I'd guess we need water first. I was able to make a condensed ball of air and was unable. We then move on to the rare types. We both try electricity. Of course, only I can. We attempt at amplifying sound waves. I almost broke Anne's eardrums. I try darkness, and the room goes dark. And tries light, and the room grows brighter. I guess she can use light magic. She is unable to use darkness, so I turn the room dark again and proceed to make it light. We continue to try space. I end up making a hole in the wall. I put my head through and it's just darkness. I pull my head out and close it. I then try to use time and freezes. I guess I stopped her in time. Maybe a bit more than that. I unfreeze time and waits for me to try to use it. I already did it, I say, but nothing happened. She's surprised I froze time. Oh, now you try. It didn't work. That's okay. Go ahead and try telekinesis. I already used it once. I watch as she gets a book off the top shelf, twirls it around, and sets it back on the shelf. It looks like you can use light telepathy and telekinesis, I say to her. We didn't get to try water yet, don't worry. I believe in you. I set the book back on the shelf. There you are, Hannah says in an actual voice. I've been looking all over for you too. She proceeds to pick us up to take us out of the room, down the hallway back in our room, and inside the crib stay. She says and leaves the room again. What do we do now? And says in my mind. Let's try doing what they wanted. What's that? Sleep. Of course. Okay, good night. Yeah, that chapter 5 dream. As I close my eyes, I slowly fall into slumber along with Anne, my twin sister. I find myself lying back down in that ever-bright, white room. I sit up and see him in the same position. God. What do you want now? Just wanted to say hi. You took me away from my new home to say hi up. I hate you. Said that already. Well, can I go now? I ask why not stay here a while. There's nothing to do here. You could talk to me. What would make you think I want to talk to you? I know everything, he says confidently. The last time I was about to ask you an important question, you sent me away. Are you at least enjoying yourself? I haven't really done much well. You are only a few hours old, unfortunately. Do you like your first few gifts? What the magic? I ask. Yes, of course. It would have been better if my twin had the same power. Not everyone can be as strong as you. In fact, no one is as strong as you will become. And why is that? I still have plenty of gifts to send to you. He says enthusiastically. Great. Don't be such a sour pussug. Do you have any other questions or requests for me about the gifts or the world? He says yes, in fact I do have a request. What would that be? Don't make me be a hero in the world. Why not? He says surprised. It's too much work. Are you sure? You would get a lot of praise and you would be very happy. Also, I don't want to have the perfect life where literally everything is done for me. Hard work never hurt anyone. You're supposed to be enjoying the fancy life, not dissolving in everyday hard work. I don't care. A perfect life is boring. I want to see some action. Well, are you sure? He asks. Yeah, really sure. Yes. I say, starting to get impatient. All right. Good. Anything else? Tell me about the world. Sure. The place you are right now is the house or Mr. and Mrs. Chinwyke. They are a noble family. They reside in the continent of Xerneas, home to the humans. There are 3 other continents in the world, but you need not worry about them at this time. You can always go to that library of yours. Okay then, thanks I guess. Well, if you ever change your mind about not having an easy life, just start screaming in your mind. Okay, by then I say, and I black out. Chapter 6 Normal Day. Miss Jessica, Miss N. It's time to wake for supper. Hannah, our maid, says as she walks in the room. As I move over onto my stomach, I watch and open her eyes and yawn. Babies are cute. Hannah walks over and lifts us into her arms. She takes us out of the room and down the hall in the opposite direction of the way to the library. We arrive shortly to a dining room. It's 3 times larger than the size of the library. There are 3 chandeliers on the ceiling with a table that is almost as long as the room is. In the center at the table sits mother and father. Miss Jessica and Miss Anne have arrived, Hannah says. Lovely, Carol says. I reach my hands out towards mother, indicating to the rest that I want to go to her. Come here, Jessica, she says as she opens her arms. Hannah hands me to her and proceeds to hand and to father. It's time to eat, he says. Hannah brings out 2 bottles of milk, probably for my sister and I, while another maid and 2 butlers come in with food for Carol and Gerald. Before our parents start eating, they help and I drink the milk soon. We both finish, take them to bed, Hannah. Carol says. Yes, Mrs. she said as she picks up and me from our parents. These 2 sure are a strange couple, Gerald says. And why is that? Carol asks. They have yet to cry. Once I guess that is true. But we are blessed to have them either way, yes. He agrees. Hannah takes us back to our room. What awaits us inside are baby's toys on the floor. It already looks as if another baby played with them and made a mess. I hope you two like the toys we got you, Hannah says. I'll be back, have fun. She leaves the room and closes the door. Hey, Anne. I say to her telepathically. Hey. She says as she smiles. Looks like we have something to do now, I guess so. We should practice our magic here too, but why? Why not? Why haven't we told anyone about what we can do? Can't we speak to mother, father, and Hannah telepathically too? And no baby should be as smart as we currently are. If they found out we already know so much, bad things might happen. Like what? Who knows really? People could come after us like assassins or kidnappers. Oh, I guess you're right. I'm sorry I ever doubted you, sister. You're so talented. No worries, I say. By the way, Hannah left a water pitcher in the corner of the room for some reason. Try it out. And tries to take the water out with magic. She succeeds to do so. She practiced controlling how much light she makes as well as controlling the water, while I practice controlling literally everything. I guess God helped me with this too, because it is all extremely easy for me to use. After a while, Hannah returns. All right, time for sleep. She says, picking us up and putting us in the crib. We gently fall asleep. This routine continues for 3 years. The day of and I's 3rd birthday arrives. By now I've taught and how to walk. I've also told and stories. All of those stories, of course, came from Earth. I also told her about fighting, including swordsmanship, archery, martial arts, and taekwondo. Our crib has changed to a queen-sized bed, a little too big for my taste. We've also grown a bit so we aren't babies anymore. And has grown light blue hair. Probably because of what magic types she can use. I, unfortunately, can use all types of magic, but my hair is pink. Another thing about my hair that is a bit on the strange side is parts of it change color when I use magic. I made a mental note of what colors it changed to when I used it. Fire, red, earth, brown, water, blue, air, semi-transparent, electricity, yellow, sound, gray, dark, black, light, white, space, orange, time, green, telepathy, pink, telekinesis, purple, time to wake up sleepyheads. Today is a special day. Hannah tells us, and we follow her to the dining area room as always. When we arrive, we eat just like we normally do. When we finish, Carol nods at Gerald and continues to say, all right, you two. You might have realized this already, we are nobles. Nobles are people who are directly under royalty. Whenever a noble turns 3, it is tradition to have a ball to announce your presence to the world. And I look at each other. We haven't exactly met many people. The ball will be tomorrow evening. Be ready, my sweet daughters, he says, and we follow Hannah back to the room. Now I know neither of you has ever spoken a word, but you won't really have to do anything tomorrow. You will have to meet the other noblemen though. Get some rest, girls, she says as she takes her leave. Chapter 7 revealed today is the day of the ball, and is visibly nervous as we get changed into our fancy dresses. I couldn't care less about this ball. It's going to be super boring. After we struggle to get changed, Hannah shows up, and we follow her to the dining room. Ah, they're there, Gerald says. We thought we should probably tell you what will happen tonight. He explains pretty quickly that all we are going to do is sit at a table and greet other nobles. Now I know you two aren't able to talk yet, but at least wave to say hi, he says. Oh, also, Carol steps in. People may stare at your hair. Not many people have pink hair, little do they know. It's not just pink. They probably already know that I can use telepathy if my color suspicions are correct. Hey, and what do you think? Should we finally tell them that we can use magic already? I ask her telepathically, of course. If you think we should, she replies. All right, here goes. I attempt to speak to everyone at the same time. This might get a bit awkward. I have a question. I say. Carol and Gerald are staring in surprise. Carol, did she just? Gerald says, I think she did. She says our daughter's first words. They say at almost the exact same time. Well, I wouldn't say that. I say, why not? Carol says. Well, and I have been talking to each other for quite a while now. Is this true? And are you also able to use telepathy? Yes, it is true, she says. We missed both of our daughter's first words, Gerald says as he slumps into a depression. My first word was hi, and so was Anne's. I say. When did this happen? Carol asks. Do you want the truth? Of course. I'm your mother after all. Well, it was kind of 3 years ago from yesterday. Wait. But you had just been born, that's right. Does that mean you already know what kind of magic you both can use? We can get a pretty good guess from the color of your hair, however. Yes, I also figured that hair thing out too. So would you mind telling us what you can use then? Gerald buds in. I guess I'll start, and says. I can use water, light, telepathy, and telekinesis. Both of our parents' eyes are wide open. You have 2 legendary magic types. Yes, she says, unsure of herself. I didn't get as lucky as Jess though. Jess, you already have a nickname? Carol asks. Of course. I gave her one because Jessica is too long to say. I see. Well, Jess, why don't you share with us what magic you can use? And did say you got luckier? She asks. Well, as you can tell, I can use telepathy. I say, not sure of how to continue. You try telling your parents you're all-powerful. I can also use everything else. I mumble. I didn't even know mumbling was possible using telepathy. Sorry, can you repeat that? Gerald says. I said. I can use every magic type. Both of our parents so surprised and slightly terrified. They are speechless. Chapter 8 Ball. What do you mean you can use all of them? It's a joke, right? Gerald asks. It's exactly like I said. I could prove it. Well, we don't really have the ability to test that all here. For now, just keep it a secret from everyone else. Okay, we've already done so for 3 years. We'll be fine, I say. Well, go get ready for the ball, you two. We're already right. Well, please wait in your room for everyone who is coming. Hannah will come to get you when everything is ready for you too, he says. And I head to the room and wait there for a while, wondering just how many people is going to be there. After a few hours, Hannah comes in. Everyone is ready for you, she says. We follow her to a door past where the dining room is. We could hear people through the door talking. All right, girls, when you go in, just head straight for your parents. They are on the far side of the room. Don't walk too fast, but don't walk too slow either, Hannah tells us. We hear everyone start to quiet down and an announcer say, Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you and the 2 stars of tonight, Miss Jessica and Miss and Chinwick. The door opens and we start to walk towards our parents. Everyone starts clapping and we reach our seats. I look around and see all kinds of strange people. There are people that don't exactly look like humans. About 1/6 of the people have very pointy ears. They look like elves. There are also a few people that look like animals. Gerald stands up and everyone quiets down. I welcome you all to our home. As you know, my twin daughters Jessica and have turned 3 years old. Please enjoy the party. Everyone continues with whatever they were doing. After a while, I see 2 people get up from one of the tables and walk over to us. They are both human. The older man, who I guess is the father, has brown hair. He looks older than my parents, but still looks young. The other person looks to be his son. He looks about my age, and he has light brown hair. Mr. and Mrs. Chinwick, we would like to thank you for inviting us to this ball. The man says, Miss and Miss Jessica. My name is Jacob of the noble Howells family, and this is my son Darren Howells. We reside on this continent Xernias. I nod and he bows and leaves back to his seat. Another 2 people stand up afterward. They look like they are both elves. The older man, who is probably the father, has pink hair like me. The other person is about my age again and looks like his daughter. She also has green hair. We thank you for allowing us to be here, Mr. and Mrs. Chinwick. The man says, Miss Jessica and Miss N. My name is Herine of the noble Butternay family, and this is my daughter Samantha Butternay. We reside on the continent of Adroya. I nod again and they went back. I used telepathy to ask my parents, is that man able to use telepathy because of the pink hair? My father bends down and whispers to me he cannot. His magic abilities are a mix of light and fire. I see. A third couple of people stand up from their table. They both have tails and whiskers. The father has yellow and sort of transparent hair somehow. The boy next to him has red mixed with gray hair. As they are about to step up to us, I witness a strange hooded person putting something into the animal person's drink. As I do, I quickly tell my parents. I don't know if you noticed, but someone just put something into this man's drink. I say before either of them could react. The man starts to say the same thing as the others. We are full of gratitude that you invited us today, Mr. and Mrs. Chinwick, he says, and steps over towards my sister and I. My name is Deland of the noble Kirst family, and this is my son David Kirst. It is nice to meet you. We reside on the continent of Clemaine. I nod a third time and see the hooded person about step out of the room. I decide to use telekinesis and lift him off the ground, but not enough for anyone to notice. As part of my hair changes color to purple, I say to my parents, you should make sure they don't drink that. It might be poisoned. Also, the hooded figure about to leave is the culprit. Thank you, Jess, my mother whispers. My father stands and everyone quiets down. I apologize for suddenly getting your attention, but it seems there has been an assassination attempt. Almost everyone gasps. Chapter 9 Discussion. My father continues to speak. Mr. Kirst, please. Do not drink that. It was my assassination. What good would anyone receive by doing that? Deland says, I do not know, perhaps you should ask. Father says as he points to the hooded figure by the exit. Meanwhile, I'm calmly watching this unfold while parts of my hair are still purple rather than pink. Seize that man if you would. My father says, and our two butlers step up to keep him held. I let go of my telekinesis and my hair turns completely pink again. They take the person out of the room and Deland quickly follows. That man will probably be killed for trying that. I apologize again for this sudden occurrence. Please continue as your father says. Everyone is quiet. How did you know it was poison, Mr. Chinwick? Someone asks among the crowd. I simply saw a shady character putting something in Mr. Kirsch's drink. He says, and a few people start clapping. Please, there is no need for any praise. He says, trying to calm the crowd. Everyone goes back to what they were doing beforehand. And seems a little upset and says, how come you get all the praise? Jess is the one who saw and held the person in place. I saw her hair color change to purple. He bends over to speak to her. I know. It's not fair for me to take all the credit, however. If anyone found out she can use telekinesis or telepathy, let alone all the others, she could be in big trouble. The remainder of the ball was very uneventful. At the end, when everyone else left and the other three noble families said goodbye, we continued our daily routine for 5 more years. And I are 8 years old today, and as we sit to eat breakfast I notice our parents are acting strange. What's wrong? I eventually have to say something because they look like their dog is about to die. It's time for the two of you to attend academy. My father says, and I immediately understand. Don't worry about us, we'll be fine. Besides, if anyone did decide to hurt us, they will pay with their life. I say with a happy voice that sends shivers down the spines of my parents. We are just worried that you might get teased for not speaking to people. They could think there is something wrong with you. Mother says, well, I guess they'll have to live with knowing that Jess is better than them in every way. And steps in confidently what she said. I say, well then let's talk about the specifics. Father adds, all right, first of all, you can't go around telling and showing everyone that you're all powerful. Also, you can't just use magic whenever you want. Everyone will see your hair change. I'm surprised nobody asked about it at the ball, even if pink and purple look similar. Why not? People could become afraid of you and turn against you. That could hurt the entire family. What about the teachers? Shouldn't they know that I'm good at everything already? That brings me to the second thing. Father continues. You're smart, probably too smart. Everything we try to teach you, you already know or can easily understand. So what you're saying is you want me to play dumb? Well, just a little bit, yeah, ugh, fine, whatever. Probably not. We have already had everything taken care of. You will live in dorms at the academy and... He is cut off by, and wait, why can't we live here? The academy is not on this continent. It is on the elven continent Adroya. Isn't that super far away, she asks. Adroya is the neighboring continent. I know you think it is very far away, but it is where all the noble children go for school. Plus it's only about a 5-hour carriage ride. That's still pretty far, I butt in. You will have 2 days before you leave to get prepared. When you arrive, orientation will be starting, so you won't be able to go sightseeing. That's unfortunate, I say. By the time we finish discussing about the academy, we have all already eaten and we finish the next couple of days like normal. Chapter 10 Orientation. The day came and it was time for and I to leave for the academy. Hannah had packed our clothes into suitcases that I knew we would never touch since they would all just end up being put in drawers in our room. The carriage is here, Mother comes in to say. Let's get going then, I say. We step outside to the front of our house. We see a carriage that almost looks like a pumpkin with 2 brown horses guiding it. My father decides to give a sort of pep talk to and I. Now I want you both to succeed, but I also don't want you to go overboard. And please keep Jess out of trouble, just. Don't do anything too bad. What would incline you to say that, I say? We've already talked about it, now off with you. Bye, Mother, bye, Father. And I say goodbye to our parents and get in the carriage to go to the academy. After about 4.5 hours of boredom, eating lunch and waiting later, we finally arrive at the academy. It doesn't look very big. It's roughly half the size of a high school on Earth. When the carriage stops, the door opens and we step out to our surprise. Hannah is the one who opened it. Welcome to the academy, she says. Why are you here? And asks, I'm a teacher, of course. Why? And how did you get here before us? I thought it took 5 hours to get here, I ask. It does, but I have my ways. I also left before you did. As for why? Because why not, whatever. Let's get you two to orientation. What about our things? Someone will get them. Let's go, I thought so. And I follow Hannah inside the building. There are signs everywhere telling us to go to the same location. I think we need to go to the multipurpose room. When we get to the room, there are already about 50 people present. As far as I can see, I don't know anyone here, but I might have missed some people. Most of them are humans, but there are groups of elves and man-beasts here and there. Attention everyone, an announcer calls. Everyone quiets down, we will now begin orientation. The announcer is a man that looks like he's in his 50s and has maroon-colored hair. My guess is fire and earth magic. Orientation begins with the announcer saying all the rules for the school. The rules are obvious, don't do anything bad. Alright, now that that's over with, we need to put you into your classes, the man says. Please get into a single file line. He says as 3 people bring in a large black orb from outside. The orb is perfectly symmetrical and is as tall as an adult. I drag Anne to the back of the line. Why are we back here, she asks. We don't want everyone knowing what we can do, so we definitely can't go first. Alright, now that everyone is in line, here's how it works. All you have to do is place your hand on the orb and it will have different colors depending on what you can do. The man says as he demonstrates, just as I thought. A red and brown circle appears. The first person puts their hand on the orb and a few circles of color appear. A red and clear circle appears. They must be able to use fire and air magic, room 3B. The announcer says. The second person walks up and puts their hand on the orb. No circles appear, room 4B. I wonder what color their hair is. Maybe they don't have any. The third person has 3 circles, green, white, and red. They can use time, light, and fire, room 1A. They must be special if they got into the first class. I watch as they go to exit the door. It looks like they're an elf. I get a glimpse of their face and it's Samantha Butternay. She is a noble. I guess it makes sense that she is in the best class. After most people had gone already, I counted about 6 people to be in each class. Also present was Darren Howells, who could use light and earth magic. Then there was David Kirst, who could use sound and fire. Of course, they both were put into room 1A. And I were the only ones left to be checked. And was about to start stepping towards the big orb. The man stops her. Not you two, what's wrong? And asks with telepathy since we are unable to speak normally. He looks a little surprised. Your evaluation will be held in private. As per your father's wishes, okay? But how are we supposed to know what class we're in? I say all nobles are to be put in room 1A. There is no need to worry, I see. Chapter 11 Assessment, if you would follow me. The man says yes, sure, whatever I say. I look around the room before we leave. There is only a group of 5 boys in here. They must have wanted to see everyone's abilities. They are also glaring at us, probably wondering why we weren't evaluated. The man leads us through a door into a small room. Inside, there is a table with an orb the size of a hand on top. Do just as you would have in the other room, he says, and places her hand on the orb for a second and takes it off. For orbs glow pink, purple, white, and blue. You are able to use 2 legendary types of magic. He looks astonished. Yes, sir, she says. All right, then go ahead. Yes, sure. I place my hand on the orb and take it off. He faints after seeing all the orbs, of course. I leave the room and follows. I guess we're off to room 1A. I say yes, let's go. As we walk towards the exit door, I notice the 5 boys who were inside the room before weren't anymore. I guess they got to see everyone's abilities, so they probably decided to go pick on some kids. When we reach the exit and get through the doorway, we notice different signs than the ones before. These told us where each classroom was. We followed the signs that said 1A until they stopped at a door. I opened the door and I saw a few familiar faces. Hi, Jessica. Hi, and Samantha says. I wave. Don't show them your magic yet, I tell, and all right. She replies and she also waves. We were wondering when you would get here. Darren says. I look at everything in the room. There are only 6 desks in a 2x3 formation, each about 2 feet away from each other. In front is a slightly bigger desk. My guess is it's for the teacher for the class. The opposite wall is almost all window. All right, kids. Get seated, someone says as they walk in. I look over and see Hannah walking towards the teacher's desk in the front of the room. Of course, she is the teacher. Who else? I sit in the back corner next to the window. There is 1 extra seat in the other back corner, and sits next to me while David sits in front of me and Samantha sits between the 2 boys. Why are we sitting back here? Jess asks. You don't have to be back here if you don't want to. I say, but I never leave your side. Yeah, I know. Hello. My name is Hannah Nataraja. You can refer to me as Ms. N or Ms. Hannah, she says. I look out the window and see a courtyard. The courtyard is 4 times the size of this classroom. In the center is a tree that looks like a cherry blossom tree, but must be special since it is definitely not the right time for it to be pink. The tree must have been here for decades since it looks like a sequoia tree with its width, but it's only about 2 stories high. Near each corner are elevated squares of flowers that look like roses. About the same width as the tree is. Hey Jess. Hannah is trying to speak and yells at me. I return my focus to the class now. We already know each other, so there is no need to have greetings. The first thing we are going to do is assess your knowledge. That means test, she says. Multiple groans were heard in the room. Hannah waves her hands and suddenly there are papers on each of our desks. I check the back of the papers and see that there are 75 questions. This test is probably used to assess the knowledge of a normal adult in this world. This world hasn't progressed as much as Earth had since I basically finished high school already. Almost everything on the test came very easily to me. There are math questions, there are questions about science, and others on spelling and grammar. The one thing that got me was history. I haven't learned anything about this world's history yet. I skipped all the history questions and ended in roughly 15 minutes. I'm done, I tell Hannah through telepathy. She walks over to my desk and takes my papers to look through them. You didn't even answer 15 of the questions. I don't know any history, so I skipped them. She took the papers. Are you already done? Asks David. I nod. He continues, well, without the history portion. The one you skipped, you got a perfect score. Hannah says after a bit of flipping through papers. Please. Wait patiently for the rest of the students to finish. I put my head down and slowly drift off to sleep. Chapter 12 Classmates. I found myself in this place again. I sit up and see him. God, well, hi there, he says. Why? Because I can. How long has it been? 8 years, yeah. I guess. What do you want this time? He says. I just wanted to know how you're doing. Can't you see everything that happens? Yeah. But I wanted to hear it from you. Everything is just great, I say sarcastically. You're lying. Yeah, well, I'm bored. You need to be more patient. I have been trying to set something up for you, plus. You are only 8 years old. I've lived for 24 years already. As 2 different people. Your body is still 8 years old. Then make it better. I guess I could add that to your list of gifts. He takes out a pad of paper and a pen and writes something down. You should let me see that. No, these are surprises. I hate you, I mumble. What did you say? Just the usual. Yeah, off with you, it's about time. I say as a whole swallows me. Just wake up. And is almost screaming in my mind. That kind of hurts, you know. I say, looking over to her. Everyone is done with their test, we're moving on. I look around the room to see everyone staring at us with confused looks, waiting for me. How long did you wait for me to wake up? I've been trying for the past few minutes. I can understand why they are confused. And was sitting at her desk looking determined and leaning towards me. Anyone that didn't hear the exchange would probably think she's crazy. Now that you have all taken the test and I have assessed your knowledge, I need to assess your magical abilities. Please follow me, Hannah says. She leaves the room and everyone else follows. I stay a little behind since I'm not used to having friends yet. It's still strange to even have family. We walk down the hall and enter the multipurpose room again. There are a few other groups here too, all right. You all need to show me how well you can control each magic type you can use. David, you will start, Hannah says. David does as he is told and produces a small flame in his hand and a small sound out of his finger. This is all I can do at the moment, he says. At least you can get something to show. Next is Samantha. Hannah says. All right, she says. Thank you, she says again almost immediately. Next is Darren. Hannah says. Miss Hannah. She didn't do anything, Darren says. She stopped time for everyone except her and I. She showed me all 3 of her magic types. Oh, okay. Here goes. He says as he lifts a human-sized chunk of earth out of the ground. Aren't I great? He says, proud of himself as he sets it back in the earth. He proceeds to attempt to lighten the area around us. It isn't very noticeable. What was that about you being great? David says. Darren and David glare at each other. I roll my eyes. Next is Anne. Hannah says, getting the attention of the others. Hannah, I'm going to need water. She tells her telepathically, ah yes. she says as 10 buckets of water appear in front of her, and proceeds to lift the water out of each bucket into a floating ball. She then proceeds to make it glow. The kids look astonished and not finished. Lifts the buckets themselves with telekinesis and says to our classmates and Hannah, "I'm not very skilled compared to Jess, but I can still do something at least." She puts everything back to where it was before she started and looks at everyone. Their mouths are wide open. Hannah is just smiling. "What do you mean she is more skilled than you?" Samantha asks. "How are you even able to control magic that well already?" "I've had some practice before," Anne says, smiling at me. I see Hannah smiling at Anne and ask, "Did you already know she could control her magic decently already?" "I may have witnessed you two playing around with magic in your room every day for 8 years," she whispers to me. "Well, then it's your turn, Jessica," Hannah says. Everyone is waiting in anticipation. I'm not sure if I say to everyone. "What do you mean?" "We want to know how much you control, that's all." Darren says, "Jessica, it's okay. We won't judge you for how well you can control it." David says, "Everyone agrees." "Okay," I say. Chapter 13 School. I start with freezing time for everyone outside of our group. Part of my hair changes to green. "Whoa. Your hair changed," David says. "Just wait." And says for me. I make a dome of earth around our area and some of my hair changes to brown. I take the buckets, flip them upside down with telekinesis, and take the water to put around the walls. I use sound magic to make the water have waves. My hair continues to change in portions. I produce fire and make another layer around the inside walls as well as condense the air in between the layer of water and fire. More of my hair changes. I make another layer of lightning around the walls, then make half of the space inside the dome very dark and half bright, but not enough to cause harm. Once that is complete, I transport the group outside the dome using space magic and make a doorway into the dome. With that complete, I fold my arms waiting for a response and I say, "How about that?" I look at everyone. And Hannah are just smiling in awe. The other 3 look slightly terrified but are still staring in awe as well. "Jess, your hair is a rainbow," and says. I take a look at my hair. It is a proper rainbow. At my scalp, it starts with black and continues in a rainbow pattern as it continues down my hair and ends white. So it is, I say. "How can you use all of them?" "Who knows, I just can." I reset everything to where it was before. And then I unfreeze time. Nobody outside of our group knows what just transpired. Our group watches as my hair slowly turns back to a solid pink. "Good job, everyone. Let's head back to the classroom," Hannah says. We follow her back through the halls and into the classroom. I stay further back again. Every once in a while, one of them looks back at me and turns back shortly after. They must be talking about me. We arrive in the classroom and everyone goes back to where they were before. Hannah starts talking about learning and how it's the best and starts trying to teach us. I tune her out looking at the tree in the courtyard since I already know this stuff. I watch as a petal breaks off from the branch and slowly falls to the floor. When will that God do something to make this less boring? After a lot of my mind wandering endlessly for probably a couple of hours, my sister stops me. "Jess, Hannah is going to talk about some history," she says. I look to the front of the room to see 5 decently thick books on the teacher's desk. "These are your history books. Throughout your school time, you will read this and learn from it," Hannah says. The books disappear and reappear on each desk. "MS. Hannah, I forgot to ask. Is that space magic you're using?" Darren asks. "Yes, it is," she responds. I open the book and see many words and almost as many pictures. There are 7 sections in the book. First is Before, which is about this world before main civilization showed up. The 2nd through 5th chapter refers to each continent. Xernias, the human continent. Adroia, the elven continent. Clumain, the man-beast continent. And Cresselia, the last continent. The 6th chapter is War and is about the war between each continent. Then lastly is the Peace chapter, where everything is great with that. "We are done for today," Hannah says. "Go ahead and head to the cafeteria for supper. It's the multipurpose room. There are signs telling you all where to go." Everyone stands up and grabs their books and we all start to exit the room. As Hannah said, there were plenty of signs pointing in the direction of the multipurpose room. They need a better name for that room. As always, I stay behind and give the others space to be friends, and when we get to the multipurpose room, literally everyone else is already there and eating. The 5 of us calmly obtain our food and eat at a table reserved for the nobles. Because why not? Once everyone is starting to finish up, the same announcer man as before gets everyone's attention easily. Attention everyone when you are finished eating. Report directly to your dorms, thank you, Jess. Where's our dorm? And asks, no clue, I respond. I bet you two are wondering where your dorm is. Aren't you? Hannah comes to save the day, follow me. And I stand up and follow Hannah out of the room and to some stairs next to the doorway. Once upstairs, we travel not far down the hall to a door that is labeled Chinwyke. At least we won't get confused on which door is ours. Good night, you two, see you tomorrow. Hannah says as she walks back towards the stairs. And enters first and is immediately stunned. Wow. She says this is bigger than the room at our house. I step in and notice it is about twice the size of our old room and 3 times the size of our classroom. To the right are 2 queen-size beds. The one closer to the door is light blue and the one further from us and closer to the other wall is pink. I call the light blue one. And says before I have any say in any of this. The opposite wall is almost all glass like the classroom and also has a view of the same courtyard. To the left is the other half of the room. A walk-in closet inside are our suitcases, thanks. I guess chapter 14 trip, let's get some sleep. We've got a big day tomorrow. Says and jumping into her bed, yeah, unfortunately. I reluctantly say. I was enjoying watching the endless shower of cherry blossom petals falling off of the strange tree. We've been at the school for about a month now and practically nothing has happened. We've read 1 chapter of the history book as a class, which was about before main civilization. It turns out there used to be many mythical beast species before they all died out, like unicorns, Pegasus, many kinds of dragons, fairies, centaurs. All the normal ones. Of course there were still normal animals alive like wolves and horses. Tomorrow would be an actual test on the chapter. School here is so much easier than it was on Earth. As I am in my bed trying to fall asleep, I find that I can't seem to get myself to that point. After I feel sure that and is asleep, I get up and leave the room. I walk down the hall and down the stairs as quietly as I can possibly be as to not wake anyone. I find the entrance to the courtyard and I enter. It seems peaceful. I walk towards the tree and sit on the corner of one of the elevated squares. I look up towards the top of the tree. I just sit here like this for some time. I decide to stand up and get closer to the tree. I walk up to it and put my hands on it. My hands went inside, it feels like slime or glue. I try to pull my hands out, but I am unable. It sucks me in. I start falling while fearing for my life. It's too much and I black out. Hey, he says, not again. I open my eyes and it's that room again. What did you do this time? I say. What makes you think I did something, your God? You always did something, I guess that's true. Well, you wanted to be less bored, so this is it. I'm literally falling to my death, have fun. He says, and a hole swallows me. I wake up in a cave. I look around, all I see is gray rocks and only one way to go. I look up and see a ceiling. Shouldn't there be a hole where I came through? I guess I need to go somewhere. I start walking through the cave. It's impossible to tell whether I'm going deeper in or closer to the exit. Every once in a while I spot a color other than gray. I walk up to one and it seems to be some sort of crystal. The further I walk, the more they appear. There are 12 different colors I can find. One of them is gray, but a different shade than the normal rock, and another is transparent. I just happen to trip over the transparent one. I, of course, have the natural idea to take all of the crystals using space magic. I found out that magic doesn't only transport things, it can store them. After walking for who knows how long, I come upon a room. Now this room isn't just big, it's friggin' humongous. It could probably fit 50 academies and still have room left over. After taking all of the crystals in the room, I finally look around. In the center is something that I never would have guessed there to be in a cave. It's another cherry blossom tree. Except this one is about 10 times the size of the one at the academy. Directly between me and the tree is a book, just lying there on the ground. It's a decently sized book, about the size of that history book we have. I grab the book off the ground, some dust fall off. I then actually dust it off and it covers me in particles of it. I look at the title. The Complete History of Dragons, haha, wow, God. This is all you, isn't it? Just read the book. Ugh. I open the book. Most of the pages are ripped in spots and have holes in them. A lot of the pages are also blank. This must have been ruined by time or something. The pages I could read include the different types of dragons, their descriptions, and what magic they could use. I'm surprised they could use magic to begin with. Pick your favorite seriously. This is your idea of making my body better by literally changing my species. Don't worry. You'll still be able to look human whenever you desire. Oh wow, how fantastic.